Exodus chapter 1. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel, who came into Egypt unto Jacob. Every man came with his household: Reuben, Shimeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, and Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mightily. And the land was filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. Come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that, when there befalleth us any war, they also join themselves unto our enemies, and fight against us, and get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh store cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread abroad, and they were a dread because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard service, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field, and all their service wherein they made them serve with rigor. And the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puach. And he said, When you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, you shall look upon the birth stool. If it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said unto them, Why have you done this thing, that you have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and they are delivered ere the midwife come unto them. And God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. We are continuing from the actual last chapter of Genesis, as we left off there in the last chapter. Joseph had died, and in a narrative sense, that's kind of where we're picking it up here with the children who went down with him. And the book of Exodus basically is they dealing with just that, as the children we find have went down into Egypt to sojourn there. We'll find out they go down in pleasant terms, in good terms, with Joseph and everything. It seems like all pleasantness. What we'll find while they was in Egypt, the hard times had sucked up all the land, sucked up all the substance, and everything now belonged to Pharaoh, including most of the inhabitants of Egypt. And we're going to pick it up here in verse 1. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel who came into Egypt with Jacob. Every man came with his household. And these are the names of the sons. The son is a masculine. A masculine, we would think, in one sense, that we have a positive and a negative. The feminine is kind of the positive. And the masculine is going to be the negative, not in so much that it's bad, but in the term it's necessary. It's kind of like the stronger. If there's a weak, there has to be a strong. So it's kind of like the opposite. Everything requires, if there's good, there has to be bad. There's an equal and opposite for everything. And that's what the son is. He represents the opposite of the daughter. But here's the sons of Israel. They're the ones who come with him into Egypt. Egypt's a place of crypts. Egypt got it basically because that's what their whole philosophy was based around, was the grave. And with these ones come down with Yakab. Yakab's a supplanter, simply somebody who takes up something that not necessarily his, or was given charge of something that wasn't necessarily their obligation. Every man comes with his household. That's all his belongings. 2, Reuben, Shimeon, Levi, and Judah. Reuben is the firstborn. These are the sons of Lech here. Reuben is the one who's seen the sun. Shimeon heard. Levi joined. And Judah are those of praising, or praised. 3, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Issachar is the one that carries the reward. Zebulun, the one that inhabits, and Benjamin is the son of my right hand, or the son of strength. 4, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. Dan is judgment. Naphtali is wrestlings or twistings, usually to add some strength. Gad and Asher, God is an Asher. God is a troop in the sense of invading, and Asher is a step up, even a step forward. 5, and all the souls that came out of the loins of Yakab were 70 souls, and Joseph was in Egypt already. And all the souls, that's these ones that was alive, that did come forth from Yakab, the supplanter. From the loins are that which descends from above. They were 70 souls. 70 is 7 tenths, simply is to finish the law, you might say, for these souls. And Joseph was in Egypt already. So we'll find Joseph had already been sold into that place of Egypt. He was already there when they came. Joseph is the one that adds 2, 6. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. 7, and the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. And the children of Israel were fruitful. They multiplied, increased abundantly. They had many children. They became mighty. They was doing well in the land. 8. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who knew not Joseph. So now we're going to have a new leader. As we see, the old king dies, and you got a new king, and he got the throne, but we'll find out he didn't get his attitude. He didn't know who Joseph was. And if he had heard anything about him, we'll find out that he didn't care who Joseph was. Joseph is the one that's going to add 2. We'll find out. He adds 2 tribes, 9. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. And the Pharaoh, that's who the king is, he's going to represent the head house, he says to his people, all those ones of Egypt, Behold, the people of Israel, that's those that contend with the mighty one, are too many for us. There's too many ones that are in it. We'll find out. It's basically to be caught up in a battle between the good and the bad. 10. Come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there befall us any war, they also join themselves unto our enemies, and fight against us, and get them up out of the land. He said, Come, and speaking to all those, mostly the rulers and the heads of his land, to deal wisely with them, to have to have a different attitude, basically, to change your attitude, unless they multiply, unless they become many peoples, and it time to come and in time to pass, when a war happens, they should join themselves unto the enemy. That's those that would come even to fight against the house of the Pharaoh, and get them up out of the land. They might escape. As we'll find out, everybody who was in Egypt was a bondman unto the great house. 11. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh store cities, Pithom and Ramses. So they set taskmasters over them. They're kind of like guards, you might say, whip crackers or ramrods, to afflict them with their burdens, to make them work a little harder. They built for Pharaoh store cities. These store cities are more like garrisons, to store up even armies. We'll find out this was a period of time when Egypt was moving towards more of a militant society. Pithom and Ramses. Pithom is the city of justice. Not so much in a city, but we get that sense of the height even of justice, thinking they have finally figured out all the justice of the earth. Ramses is the child of the sun. This one who was born from the sun itself. That's all. That sun represented the great light. 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread abroad, and they were dread because of the children of Israel. But it seemed like the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied, the more of them there was, because we'll find that's exactly what the system did. They were spread abroad. They were everywhere, and they became a dread. They were scared because of these ones that come forth from Israel. That's the one that contends with the mighty one, and we'll find out. Men as well. 13. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. So now the Egyptians, that's those that inhabit that place of the crypts. They made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. Forced labor, you might say. 14. And they made their lives bitter with hard service, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field, and all their service, wherein they made them serve with rigor. And they made their lives a bitter, hard service. Kind of like a living Sheol, with hard service in this mortar and brick. Yeah, and that's because they caused them to serve. Anything that they did, it didn't matter what you're doing. When you're caused to serve, it changes everything. And everything they caused them to serve in, they caused them to do harshly and with rigor, forcing them. It took a period of time. It just didn't all happen. We'll find out overnight. But their lives became bitter because of the hard service. In the old times, there was other ways to tax people, and oftentimes we think as taxation today as just the exchange of coins, money. But in times past, often people were caused to do certain things. You would have to plant this, grow this, or make this, do that, depending on what your trade was a lot of time, to pay your tax with the substance which your labor brought forth. 15. And the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puach. And the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives. A midwife is somebody that's going to assist in the birthing of children. That's those that come forth from the women. These Hebrew women. Hebrew is somebody that's from beyond. Beyond what? Well, we'll find out. Beyond the river. The midwives are the ones that's going to help bear their children or help support them in the giving, the birth of, you might say, aid The name of one was Shifra. Shifra means the shining, this shining goodness. It's like a shining to show the goodness. And this name of the other was Puach. Puach means glitter brilliantly. It glitters brilliantly. It's very shiny. Not 16. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, you shall look upon the birth stool. If it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. And the king, that's the Molech or the Pharaoh himself, tells the midwives, the midwives to the Hebrew women. Once again, a woman is something that comes from man, and we look at it as the pleasantness, that beauty, the reflection. But you shall look upon the birth stool. The birth stool was the place of birthing. We'll just look at it like that. It was a stool shared by the two, the mother and the midwife, and there would be a support possibly between the two. But the king tells the midwife that if it's a son, now if this masculine comes forth, then you shall kill him. And the thought is to take the strength out of, or to cut off the seed of these Hebrews. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. A daughter is simply a feminine. Once again, it's a pleasant understanding that come from her father. 17. But the midwives feared God, did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. But the midwives feared God. And those ones that supported in the birthings or bringing forth of these children of the Hebrew women feared God. They feared the Elohim. They feared the powers of creation. They had fear within them to do something that literally is not correct to do. And they didn't do what the king of Egypt commanded them to do. And we'll see, they broke the law of the king. They broke his law, the king of Egypt, the place of the graves. And they saved these men children alive. They saved the masculines. Or we'll find out. Sometimes not everything that's all pleasurable, but we'll find out necessary. 18. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have you done this thing? And have saved the men children alive. So the king of Egypt calls the midwives in now to ask them, why have you done this? That you've saved the men children alive. It was obvious now the masculines are still alive, and the evidence is right here. He wants to know why they have broken the law. 19. And the midwife said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women. They are lively and are delivered ere the midwife come unto them. And the midwives, those ones that was supporting in the birth or aiding in the birth of the Hebrew women, says unto Pharaoh, the great house, because these Hebrew women, these ones that come forth from these Hebrew, those ones from beyond, these masculines are not as the Egyptian women, these ones that come forth from the Egyptians, those of the grave. They are lively. We'll find out they are alive and are delivered ere the midwife come unto them. Of course, we'll find out the midwives didn't have to be totally honest with the Pharaoh. 20. God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. God deals well, though, with the midwives. They might not have been totally honest, might not have been keeping the law, but we'll find out God, the powers of Hashem, the Almighty, the powers of creation itself, deals well with the midwives, and the people multiply. and they wax very mighty. They become great, 21. It comes to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And in time to come, we'll find, because the midwives, those that supported in the birth and making sure these masculines live as well, had fear of Hashem, or Elohim, these powers, this might, this mighty one himself. He makes them houses. He gives them a place to dwell, or allows it. 22. Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. So Pharaoh's going to make another law, this time to try to counteract. He tells everybody, all his people, says, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. And we'll find again, once again, he's going to try to cut off these masculines that are born, this time not only among the Hebrews, but even among his own. And he says, cast them into the river. A river is this place where the waters are going to descend, this that's flowing downward, and that's where they'll try to cast these masculines, and hopefully they'll be washed away. And every daughter, though, all these feminines, all the pleasant things, all the beauties, you shall save it alive. And this is where we're going to pick it up in chapter 2. Turn and return.